Alright, so we've been waiting for this album for a long time, at least in terms of when we thought we were going to get it. There was Puppy, Team Effort, The Best Years of Our Lives, and so on. The boys finally signed to a major label, there was controversy, and eventually, Brockhampton recorded their 4th studio album, Iridescence, at the historic Abbey Road Studios. I've been listening to this thing nonstop, and I can't wait to talk about it with everyone. I'm gonna go track by track, play a snippet, maybe give a little background, talk about what I like and don't like, and at the end, I'll try and group everything up, giving my thoughts on the album as a whole. First things first, we're starting off with New Orleans. This is a great little transition from the Saturation trilogy into this new era. Already we're getting a taste of how the boy band is trying a lot of new things. Specifically, in this hard-hitting beat, everything in the background is a lot noisier and more experimental than usual. And yes, person in the comments who's gonna yell at me about calling Brockhampton experimental, I agree that there isn't anything insane going on here, but it's a lot weirder than the stuff they normally put out. It sounds like there's a dog whistle or something in the background, some little war calls, but remember that it's the introductory track. They're easing us into this new sound. Like all the other intro songs on the Saturation albums, this is one of the better songs for me on the album as a whole. We get solid verses from Dom, Matt, Bareface, and Joba. Kevin has a good hook that is a little repetitive, but not to a fault. Jaden Smith makes an appearance too, which I honestly don't really have an opinion about. I don't really think it adds anything or takes anything away from the song, but for me, the best part of this track is Merlin doing what Merlin does best, yelling over a hard-hitting beat, all the while spelling some deeper lyrics than you might expect. Next we have Thug Life, and before I even say anything, can we just appreciate how smooth this transition is from the first track to the second? And then also, Bareface does the same few lines from the previous track, which helps the transition along. On first listen, I almost thought this was all one song with a beat switch in the middle. I love Bareface's vocals throughout the track. He gave me some Charlie Wilson vibes from Bound 2. The real meat of this song, though, is a pitch-distorted verse from Dom. Just off the top of my head, I feel like this is a pretty new thing for him. A lot of the members have toyed with distorting their vocals a good amount of times throughout the trilogy, but it seems like more of a rarity for Dom. The verse itself is really powerful, vulnerable stuff, but personally, I'm not too keen on the specific effect that they used on his voice. It'll probably grow on me over time, though. Now we have Berlin, which goes along with the whole European theme of this album, and again, I don't want to be picking on Dom here, especially since he's trying out new things, and that's great, but his voice on his first verse is just a little off-putting for me. It's pretty whiny. I really like Matt's verse on here though, especially the clip I played in the snippet. The beat here sounds vaguely inspired by someone like Sophie. The production as a whole shines a little brighter than most of the stuff on this track for me, except the best verse on this song, which comes at the end from Joba. And now indulge me for a second, if you will. This is going to be a common theme for a lot of my thoughts on the album. I think the more experimental production from Brockhampton on Iridescence is great. However, I think most of the members don't exactly match the weird, sporadic, eccentric nature of these instrumentals. But you know who does? The weirdest, most sporadic, eccentric member of the boy band, the wild card of the group, Joba. He's given a lot of time on this album, and I think he absolutely kills every single verse.
There's something about him. His kind, nice and flash.
Something About Him is a short little love song from Kevin, and I think it's great. Obviously, it's about Jaden Walker, and I don't know, in a lot of albums that feature a really short song that hovers around a minute and a half or so, I usually end up really enjoying it. There's something that's just a little unique to the structure of it all. The artist doesn't want to overcomplicate things by adding in more, and I appreciate that. Not a whole lot to say about this one, but I do really like the melody here, the dreamlike instrumental, and I think the robot vocals work well. Pull to your house and dump like a trash man. Pull up in your grill, but I'm not a fan. Where the Cash At is a dark little grimy song, and I don't know if you'll understand where I'm coming from here, but I feel like this track really goes well with the thermal aesthetic of this album. The beat has this sort of creepy futuristic motif about it that makes me feel like I'm watching Alien vs Predator or something, and obviously that's where the whole thermal thing comes into play. Overall, I think the song is fine, not bad, not great. It's just another example of the boys taking risks and drawing inspiration from different sources, which is really cool. For example, Merlin sounds exactly like a British grime rapper here, especially at the beginning of the song. This is a dumb comparison, but I really thought it was like KSI, the YouTuber, rapper, boxer, whatever, at first.
I really miss the old days before the cosigns. I really miss them cold days before the road signs.
Wait is one of the best songs on the album. Kevin starts the track off with a really touching, vulnerable verse that's one of the best moments on Iridescence for me. The song as a whole has each member describing some of their insecurities and inner demons, or like the song title says, the weight that they've been carrying around with them since they blew up. Kevin's always sort of been the ringleader of the group, so it's always a pleasure hearing him voice his deeper thoughts, because I can't even imagine all the stuff he's been going through over the past few years. The angelic bridge here is worth mentioning, the cool little breakdown that follows it, and again, like I said, Joba seems to effortlessly flow on whatever beat he's given on this album. Also, while early on in the album I was a little unsure of how I felt about Dom trying these new things, he's back to his classic self on Wait. He has his usual array of incredible wordplay, deep poetic lyrics, and so on. I like that he's trying to experiment as an artist, but it is nice hearing him do the same kind of things that made me fall in love with the group in the first place. District is a really hard-hitting experimental track that touches on deeper subject matter. Each member of the group takes their time explaining basically how money doesn't buy happiness. I don't really think there's any cons to this song, everyone delivers. What I'm most impressed with is Joba bringing so much life into this one, Bareface's verse that I played in the snippet, Dom sounds great, and I like Matt's verse a lot too.
I just want to get popular. Look, I don't care, take my publisher, I don't know what that is anyway. You know what I'm saying?
Loophole is a pretty relevant little skit on this album. It's taken from a 2016 interview with DJ Who Kid and Killa Cam. Basically, it touches on how young artists get taken advantage of early on in their careers. The musician just wants the stuff that they've been dreaming of, the music videos, radio play, and so on. But when the dust settles, the people that you thought were taking care of you were never really your friends at all, just people trying to profit off of your success.
I could barely rap, I could barely dance, I could barely laugh, I could barely hang into the male strip or do a belly dance for me and my boyfriend since.
Tape, which samples Radiohead's Videotape, is one of the more average songs on the album in my opinion. The production is pretty cool, especially with that drum sample thrown in throughout the track, and if I was gonna pick a favorite verse, it'd probably be Kevin's. For whatever reason, he doesn't give too many rapping verses on Iridescence, but whatever, I do like this one a lot. Okay, so Javert is by far one of my favorite tracks on this album. Like I said about Where the Cash At, this song perfectly coincides with the thermal aesthetic, and the fact that this whole music video for the song is all thermal is so dope to me. The beat is intense, there are those alarm-like sounds that keep the energy flowing throughout. Matt's verse is great, the beat switch up, and Merlin's part has grown on me. Bareface's verse is great, but who am I kidding? Joba's verse here is incredible. Easily one of the best in the history of the entire group. Easily one of the best verses of 2018. We've seen him go hard before on songs like Boogie and Heat, but this is a whole nother level. His flows are insane, he is absolutely ferocious, and I love him on this album so much. He wins. Shout out to Planet Grievous. Honey is a super creative, fun song that samples Beyonce's Dance For You and Brockhampton's Bump, which is just the best. For days I've been trying to think of what this beat sounds like at the beginning of the song, and I just can't remember what I have in my head. If anybody thinks it reminds them of something, please drop a comment, my head's gonna explode. Overall, really solid verses from everyone, but the production here is what makes this song work. Maybe I'm alone in this, but Vivid just kind of sounds like a better version of Honey to me. There are similarly visceral beats that you need to bop your head to, some verses with distortion, some without. Not that the songs sound exactly the same or anything, they both just kind of hit me in a similar way, with Vivid being my more preferred of the two. P.S. Bareface rapping in Spanish is enough material for the Brockhampton subreddit to talk about for the next year or so. San Marcos is arguably my favorite song on the album. It just has so many examples of the members of the group doing what I think they do best. We start off with Matt, who could do anything and I'd like it, so while his verse is pretty unique, I loved it. Kevin delivers a classic Kevin Abstract earworm of a bridge, Bareface with an angelic chorus, and then Joba and Dom give verses that both touch on their insecurities and trying to move forward, but they each have their own distinct styles. But with all these great verses and a warm, nice beat from the producers of Brockhampton, one of my favorite moments in the history of the band doesn't include the members of the band. The London Community Gospel Choir repeating the lines, "I want more out of life than this, I want more," is just so beautiful. Brockhampton opening up to feature other musicians has led to some cool moments on this album, but this specific decision made me so happy.
Until the headlines came, the first flight I'm stuck in.
Tonya is an interesting story for me. So it's the only one of the quote-unquote singles released before Iridescence that survived. It's what they performed on Jimmy Fallon. It features Serpent with Feet, Ryan Beatty, and Jasmine Sullivan, and I already made a video about this song. I love it a lot. I've been listening to the performance on Fallon all summer. Bareface's vocals on the intro are as smooth as can be. His whole verse is even better. Kevin delivers one of his most touching and heartbreaking verses. Joba's bridge sounds amazing. It reminds you just how great of a singing voice he has. Dom's verse is classic Dom, which I don't need to explain at this point. Merlin's line about private jets crashing is one of my favorite in the history of the group, but there is something on this studio version that I really don't like. It's the tiniest thing in the world, and I'm sorry. In the background on the instrumental, I don't know the musical technical term for it, but it sounds like a dog barking, and I just think it's so annoying. But yeah, I do adore this song as a whole. I just really wish it didn't include that tiny little thing. Okay, moving on. Fabric is the final song on Iridescence, and I think it's another solid track from the album. Kevin's opening verse speaks from the heart and brings up some great points about what the media chooses to cover, and besides that, I really like Joba and Bareface's verses. Like I've said a bunch of times though, I think the production is what really shines the most. Really inventive, unique stuff goes on throughout this track, and I can't wait to see what happens when they perform the song live. The part near the end with the stomping and the clapping is gonna be ridiculous. And also, like a lot of people have already mentioned, I think the end of this song is going to flow perfectly into the first song on the second edition of this new trilogy. So overall, Brockhampton delivered yet another great album. While the sound is a lot more experimental and weird than what a lot of people are used to, I don't think it's weird enough that the reception will suffer very much. It was nice to see the producers of the group run wild and do a ton of crazy things that we haven't seen from them before. Like I mentioned on nearly every song, I think there's two main strengths to this album as a whole, one being the production and one being Joba. He has a lot of room to work with on this project, and I think he does great on every single track he's on. This new brand, this new kind of sound seems perfectly suited for someone as diverse and versatile as him. Iridescence is a step in the right direction for this boy band who's been through a lot of weird, crazy, life-changing stuff recently. They're trying to experiment, better themselves as artists and creators, and I'm all for it. For favorite songs, I'd probably say Jover, Tonya, San Marcos, and Wait. If I was going to throw this in the rankings among the other studio albums, I'd probably say Saturation 1 and Iridescence are on a similar level for me right now, then 3 and 2. I really enjoyed this album. I can't wait to see how it grows on me. Let me know what you guys think of it down below, and I'll see you next time. Hey, thanks so much for watching this video. Remember to like and subscribe if you want more videos like this. If you want to follow my social media, the links are down below. You can also donate to my Patreon, help the show, and get some cool rewards if you click the link on the screen. And I sell merch at tpublic.com/user/alfomedia. Thanks for watching, and always forward.